Today, we're digging into a malaria parasite that's been living in the shadows for, about a century now. It's one that's often been dismissed, totally misunderstood, and, as it turns out, is hiding a much more complicated story than we ever gave it credit for.
So, let's just jump right in. For decades, the medical world thought they had this particular parasite figured out. But what if, and this is a big what if, that entire understanding was just plain wrong? What if its mild-mannered reputation was really just a cover for something a lot more serious?
All right, here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start by busting the long-held myth about this supposedly harmless malaria. Then we'll uncover its secret identity, trace its incredibly sneaky life cycle, and look at the hard evidence that proves it's way more of a threat than we thought. We'll wrap up with how we find it, how we fight it, and what's next on the horizon.
So let's start with that myth. In the world of malaria, there's always been one major villain that steals the spotlight: Plasmodium falciparum. It's the deadliest of the bunch. And because it's so lethal, other species like Plasmodium ovale kind of got pushed to the side, labeled benign, mild, and not really seen as a major public health issue.
Yeah, for nearly 100 years, since it was first described way back in 1922, the scientific community just treated ovale malaria as one single thing. A straightforward, relatively gentle illness. But, as you're about to see, modern science has just completely blown that simple picture to bits.
And here's where it gets really fascinating, because this is a story all about how genetics just changed everything. It turns out ovale malaria wasn't one parasite at all. Nope, it was actually two distinct species, basically masquerading as one, hiding in plain sight this whole time.
Okay, before we get to the big reveal, let's just quickly nail down what kind of creature we're dealing with. The malaria parasite is an endoparasite. That means it lives inside its host, first in your liver, then in your blood. So it's not like a tick or a louse, which are ectoparasites. It's also a protozoan, a really complex single-celled organism, not a multicellular animal like a worm, which would be a metazoan.
So where exactly does our parasite fit into the big tree of life? Well, here's its formal address. It's in the genus Plasmodium, and the one we're zeroing in on today is Plasmodium ovale wallikeri. It's a completely distinct species, genetically separate from its sibling, Plasmodium ovale curtisi. In fact, get this, they've been evolving separately for somewhere between 1 and 4.5 million years.
And the name itself tells a story about how science moves forward. The species name wallikeri is a tribute to David Walliker, who was just a giant in the field of malaria genetics. It was his groundbreaking work on the complex heredity of these parasites that gave scientists the tools they needed to finally unmask this hidden species.
But what makes this parasite so incredibly tricky isn't just its hidden identity, it's the way it lives. It has a secret weapon that lets it hang around, hide out, and then storm back long after you think you're in the clear.
Okay, so the whole thing starts with a bite from an infected female Anopheles mosquito. She injects these little parasites called sporozoites, and they make a beeline straight for the liver. Now, inside the liver cells, they start multiplying, but some of them do something else. They just go to sleep. The active ones burst out as myrizoites. They invade red blood cells, and then they start multiplying like crazy. This is what causes those classic malaria symptoms, the fever, the chills. Eventually, some of them turn into sexual forms, which get slurped up by another mosquito, they mature inside her, and the whole cycle starts all over again.
And that sleeping stage in the liver, that is the absolute key here. It's called a hypnozoid, which comes from the Greek for sleeping animal. This is the parasite's secret weapon. It can lie dormant for months, even years, totally off the radar, and then, bam! With no warning, it can wake up and launch a whole new invasion of the bloodstream, causing a full-blown relapse of malaria.
So this brings us right to the heart of our story. We now know there are these two ovale species, and one of them, Plasmodium ovale wallikeri, is really showing itself to be the more aggressive twin. The evidence is stacking up, and it's clear that benign label is dangerously out of date.
Let's just look at the data head-to-head. Studies are showing that Plasmodium ovale wallikeri has a shorter latency period. That means it wakes up from that dormant liver stage much faster. It also causes deeper thrombocytopenia. That's a big drop in your blood platelets, which you need for clotting. Plus, the markers for hemolysis, which is the destruction of red blood cells, are higher. All of this points to a parasite that puts way more stress on the human body.
And we're not just talking about a minor difference here. As the research concludes, the quicker onset of symptoms and the more severe impact on blood components mean that Plasmodium ovale wallikeri infections are just clinically more serious than those from its sibling. The myth of a perfectly benign ovale malaria is, well, it's officially busted.
Okay, so if it's more dangerous than we thought, how do we find it? And how do we treat it? Well, that's where things get tricky. This part of the story is kind of like a medical detective case.
So, the classic way to diagnose malaria is to look at a blood smear under a microscope. But here's the problem. Plasmodium ovale wallikeri and Plasmodium ovale curtizi look identical. You just can't tell them apart by looking. On top of that, ovale infections usually have a really low number of parasites in the blood, so they're super easy to miss. Even the experts can mistake them for another species, Plasmodium vivax. The only way to know for sure which one you're dealing with is with a molecular test like PCR.
And why does this matter so much? Well, for a country like the Netherlands, where malaria isn't naturally found anymore, every single case is imported, brought in by travelers or migrants, so doctors there need to know exactly what they're fighting, because the treatment, especially for these relapsing forms, has to be very, very specific.
And this isn't some rare minor issue. In 2023 alone, the main reference lab in the Netherlands diagnosed 508 cases of imported malaria. That's the highest number since they started keeping track, and the vast majority of these cases come from Africa. Every single one of them needs a precise diagnosis to get the right treatment and to make sure it doesn't come back later.
This brings us straight to the treatment, which has to be a two-pronged attack. First, you use drugs like chloroquine, or what's called an ACT, to wipe out the active parasites in the bloodstream and stop the immediate symptoms. But that's not enough. You then have to follow up with what's called a radical cure, using a drug like primaquine to go after those dormant hypnozoites hiding in the liver to prevent the disease from ever coming back.
And this is where the story gets really, really exciting, because in just the last couple of years, some major breakthroughs in genomics have completely changed our ability to study, track, and hopefully one day eliminate this parasite for good.
Just in early 2024, researchers published the first ever high-quality reference genomes for both of these ovale species. By analyzing over 43,000 genetic markers, they confirmed with absolute certainty that Plasmodium ovale wallikeri and Plasmodium ovale curtizi are different species. They even proved there's a biological barrier that stops them from interbreeding. This is a total game changer for developing new diagnostics and maybe even vaccines.
Which brings us to our final question. For a century, this parasite kind of lived in the shadows, overlooked and totally underestimated. But now, with its true identity revealed, its genetic blueprint mapped out, and its true potential for harm finally understood, is it finally stepping out into the light? Is the age of this bashful parasite finally coming to an end?
We put together all the information for this explainer using a Gemini deep search. If you want to dive deeper into any of the research, you can find a complete list of all our sources in the linked Notebook LM document. Hey, if you found this breakdown useful, please consider subscribing to our channel for more explainers just like this one. We'd really love to hear your thoughts, so make sure to share them in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching.